So we had started with KC and and we had started writing down expressions for KC, and we had not yet actually, and we just introduced that KC was the ratio of the concentration of the products to the reactants. So at equilibrium, you had a bunch of, at equilibrium, you always have some amount of product, you have some amount of reactant. And there's forward reaction happening and there's backward reaction happening, and they're both happening at the same rate, which is why the concentration of the product is not changing and the concentration of the reactant is also not changing. So the ratio of the concentration of the products and reactants, that's what KC is. And we started writing down expressions for that. So you'll have different equations. In every equation, it would be the product concentration divided by the reactant concentration, except that the coefficient would become the power in the expression. So if you have NH3, it's going to be NH3 concentration squared divided by the reactant concentration, which is N2NH2 cubed. So that is for this specific equilibrium. And you'll be asked to figure out the unit for this as well. Now, the way you do that is just as you do it in physics, where you have to calculate the units and prove that an equation is homogeneous or not. So this one is kind of the same. So NH3 concentration, the unit for concentration is mole per dm cube, and it is squared. And at the bottom, on the denominator side, you have N2. N2's concentration, that's just mole per dm cube. There is no power. And the other one is H2 concentration, and that's cubed. So it's mole per dm cube. And that's getting cubed. So you simplify this and you find the unit. So it's concentration squared divided by concentration into concentration cubed, and you will get the unit if you simplify this. Now, a lot of times simplifying this is kind of difficult because there are too many terms that need to be simplified. The easy way is just think of mole per dm cube as x. So it's x squared divided by, I'm taking mole per dm cube as x divided by x into x cubed. So if you simplify this, it comes out to be x to the power -2. And then at the end, you can substitute what x was. X was mole per dm cube. So it was mole per dm cube, and it had a power of -2. So that's your overall unit. And you open this up and it's going to be mole -2. And dm would be 6. So that is your final unit that you're going to get for this particular expression. So just remember, finding units is
dm cube कैसे आया?
कौन सा ये वाला?
जी से तीनों के जो हमारे
अच्छा नहीं, वो एक्सप्रेशन में क्या है? It's concentration squared, NH3 concentration squared. एक्सप्रेशन तो क्लियर ना, कहाँ सा है एक्सप्रेशन? ये क्लियर है?
यस सर, लेकिन वो कंसंट्रेशन साइड का है, इसीलिए कंसंट्रेशन वाला फार्मूला नहीं.
हाँ, मतलब यूनिट्स इसी तरह होते हैं ना कि in physics how do you find the unit for force? मतलब what's the unit for force? F is equal to ma, right? So what do you do? कि mass is in grams, kg में होता है, ठीक है? Acceleration, हाँ, ms -2 होता है, I think, right?
Yes.
तो उनको जब मिलाते हो तो that's basically the unit for force, right? So we're doing exactly the same thing कि आपका जो ये है ना, the KC thing, we're trying to find the unit. So it's concentration squared divided by concentration into concentration cubed. So it's mole per dm cube squared divided by mole per dm cube into mole per dm cube cubed. Clear?
Yes sir. Sir, ये मतलब बदल भी सकती ना अगर हमें simple.
हाँ, मतलब KC. Remember every time. अच्छा, we focusing on KC at the moment, ठीक है? Pressure वाले को भी छोड़ दो, वो बाद में करेंगे. अच्छा, every time the unit of KC can be different. Okay, Kc does not have a, because every time the expression is going to be different. Or हमेशा याद रखना कि it's a lot easier to simplify. I mean, it's a lot difficult to actually simplify this. Instead of using mole per dm cube, just use x. वो end में जब simplify हो जाए ना, फिर end में जाके you substitute mole per dm cube. Is that clear?
Yes, sir. Thanks.
ठीक है, इसको थोड़ा simplify करना थोड़ा सा मुश्किल होगा. It's if you open the brackets, everything, and then cancel, it's going to be time consuming. So we did another expression, so I'm going to find the unit for that as well. Okay, this was I'm going to try and find the unit for this, hi squared. So it's mole per dm cube squared divided by H2 concentration, so mole per dm cube into I2 concentration, that's mole per dm cube. So everything gets cancelled out. So that means this expression has no units. So this is known as being dimensionless. Nothing special about it. It just doesn't have any units. So remember, things can have units. Things, I mean, Kc values cannot have units. We'll do another expression for Kc, or is dafa we have. Let's do another equation. I've got 2SO2, and that's in equilibrium with the 2SO3 kar lete hain. So it's 2SO3. It's in equilibrium with 2SO2 plus O2. So here's first thing, write down the Kc expression. The Kc expression is going to be SO2 concentration would be squared multiplied by the O2 concentration. And then the whole thing gets divided by SO3, the reactant. The reactant in this case is SO3. And its concentration is squared. So that's the first thing, that's our expression. And then once you have that expression, you can find the unit, mole per dm cube, so squared multiplied by mole per dm cube divided by mole per dm cube squared. Sab kuch cancel out ho gaya, so you're left with x. So basically your unit in this case
सर लेकिन O2 के ऊपर भी तो moles आएंगे 5
5.
बैलेंसिंग के बाद. जी सर, बैलेंस के बाद नहीं आएंगे. अच्छा नहीं, 5 नहीं, सॉरी. ठीक है.
ठीक है, बैलेंस है.
जी बैलेंस.
तो ठीक है, ये क्लियर है, यही आ रहा है. इज दिस क्लियर?
Yes sir.
अच्छा, now so that is the expression of Kc, and that is the unit for Kc. Up next जो चीज है ना, that is कि we're going to find the value of Kc. Now this is going to be slightly tricky. You have to get used to it. So let's find or calculate Kc. And so now most questions are going to be phrased in this way. Okay, what they're going to say is they're going to talk like this. Okay, let's start with H2. So the question would state that initially 0.4 moles of H2 and 0.4 moles of I2 are mixed in a container, as in a 2 dm cube container. So with 0.1 moles of HI. Now remember that's initially, right? So that means when that is written, that means it's not yet at equilibrium. It's not yet at equilibrium. क्योंकि उससे जाके ना बस शुरू में ना he just mixed those things up. So the things are not yet at equilibrium. You just open a container, you put all these things inside. But obviously there's going to be forward reaction, there's going to be some backward reaction, and there would come a point when equilibrium would be reached. So remember, Kc is only for equilibrium. So you can't use these moles and find the equilibrium constant. In all these expressions, the values that you're going to put in are the ones that you're going to obtain at equilibrium, not before that. Okay? If things are not at equilibrium, you can't use those values and find Kc. Okay? Kc is found for things that have reached equilibrium. I said, then the question usually states, Haji.
इससे तो फिर इसमें हमें सिंपल इक्वेशन बनानी होगी ना, जो जितने मोल्स होते हैं वो लिखने होंगे और इसी से हमारा इक्वेशन बनेगा.
नहीं, वो डिस्कस करते हैं अभी. ठीक है,
ठीक है.
पहले अगला पार्ट कर लेते हैं कि अच्छा, then he says कि after several days equilibrium is reached. So equilibrium has been reached and it is found that 0.3 moles of HI are present. They are present. So now equilibrium has been reached. So here's the question. We already know what the equation is. I mean, let's say the equation is given in the question. The equation is that there's H2 and I2 that are reacting together and they are supposed to be at equilibrium. So just a second. And they're in equilibrium with 2HI. So that is what the reaction is. When you're going to solve this question, every time you're going to do this, you're going to make a table. You're going to make a table, and that table is going to look like this. Okay, there's going to be so there's going to be 3 columns. I mean, in this specific case, there's going to be 3 columns. Okay, those are your 3 columns, and usually they're going to be 3 rows. Okay, make this table. And in that table, you're going to add the initial moles. So your initial moles are these are the moles that you added into the container right at the beginning. So right at the beginning, initially, how many moles did you add into the container? You added 0.4 moles of H2. So मैं यहाँ पे लिख रहा हूँ कि we've added 0.4 moles of H2. And we've added 0.4 moles of I2. And we had also added 0.1 moles of HI. So all of these were added to the container. So that's your initial moles. So then there's going to be a row which would state what happens at equilibrium once equilibrium has been reached. So those are your equilibrium moles. Now your equilibrium moles are, after several days, once equilibrium was reached, it was found that 0.3 moles of HI are present. So we know the moles of HI that are present. And the middle row is I mean, that's where we do all of working. That's where we will try and figure out how much things are reacting and how many moles are getting produced. So that's our table initially based on the question. Okay, right at the beginning initially, you added these many moles of things into the container. And once equilibrium was reached and there was forward and backward reaction happening, you had 0.3 moles of HI. So by looking at these values, you would realize that, look at the values for HI. If you look at HI, तो उससे क्या पता लग रहा है? उससे पता लग रहा है कि भाई you added 0.1 moles. But at equilibrium, you have 0.3 moles. What that means is that 0.2 moles extra got produced. I mean, जब आपने उसको mix किया था ना सारों को, so what happened is that there must have been some forward reaction and the amount of HI increased. Like you added 0.1, but once equilibrium reached, you have 0.3. So that means 0.2 extra got produced during the backward and forward reaction. So there's an extra 0.2 moles getting produced. Is this clear? Is this clear? Yes or no? Also, is
Yes,
this?
sir.
So that kind of indicates that before equilibrium was reached, so before equilibrium was reached, 0.2 extra moles got produced. Now to produce according to the ratio, I said in the middle column you're going to use ratios. Okay, initially these things will not have any ratios. These are the things that you are adding. I mean, you could add any amount of H2, you can add any amount of I2, and you can add any amount of HI into the container. So these moles will have no ratio. It all depends on you, how much you're adding. Even the equilibrium moles will have no ratio because the equilibrium can produce any amount of reactants or any amount of products. It's the middle part where the reaction is happening. Okay, so 0.1, now you have 0.3, that means 0.2 got produced. Now, according to the ratio to produce 0.2, 2:1, that means 0.1 moles, according to the ratio, 0.1 moles should have reacted. And 0.1 moles of this should have reacted as well. But they must have reacted. Only then can you get 0.2 moles. I mean, there's an extra 0.2 moles getting produced. So 0.1 iske or 0.1 iske, they must have reacted to give you 0.2. So that means during this phase where equilibrium was formed, 0.1 moles of this reacted and 0.1 moles of this also reacted. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
बाकी फिर है कि आपने ऐड कितना किया था? You had added 0.1 moles initially, and now you have figured out that 0.1 out of that must have reacted. So you're left with how many moles at equilibrium? 0.3 moles. Or इसके 0.4 थे, 0.1 got reacted to attain equilibrium, and at equilibrium you would be left with 0.3 moles. So you found your equilibrium moles now. Okay, so in the Kc expression that you're going to write, you're going to use your equilibrium moles. Now, most questions would be exactly the same, especially when you try to find the value of Kc. Okay, they'll give you initial moles and they will give you moles for any one of them at equilibrium. Okay, so I'm just going to practice this table over and over again just a little bit before we can move on. So I'll do another question. I'll fill it up with different values, and we're going to try and हाँ जी.
तो जो हमारी वो यूनिट्स होंगे वो तो हमें सिंपल इक्वेशन से ही मिलेंगे ना, इससे तो
हाँ
नहीं।
नहीं ये तो बस वो है कि उसके अंदर एक्सप्रेशन में आप ऐड क्या करोगे, ठीक है?
सर इक्विलिब्रियम के मोल्स चेंज भी तो हो सकते हैं ना,
नहीं वो तो
जैसे
टेबल
इसमें सेम आ रहा है।
नहीं वो तो इक्वेशन के मोल्स वही रहेंगे.
जी इक्वेशन के सेम रहेंगे, लेकिन अगर इक्विलिब्रियम में तो चेंज भी हो सकता है, किसी का मतलब कोई और इक्वेशन है तो कुछ चेंज भी हो सकते हैं ना।
हाँ वो तो रिमेम्बर कि
जी
ये जो शुरू में जो आप मोल्स ऐड करो कंटेनर में, तो जो मर्जी ऐड करो, इट कुड बी एनीथिंग. कि मैं HI डालता ही नहीं हूँ बीच में, 0 मोल्स. क्लियर है?
यस सर।
तो मतलब so I'll do another one कि अच्छा so the table, we'll try and practice filling this table up. So I'll do कोई different कर लेते हैं, ठीक है? Let's say somebody opens a container and adds 0.8 moles of HI and 0.2 moles of H2, और I2 उसने डाला ही नहीं है. So he did not add any I2. इसको भी रब कर लेते हैं. अच्छा, so no I2 was added. फिर equilibrium के ऊपर when he opened the container, he figured out कि भाई there's 0.3 moles of I2 present. ठीक है, so let's focus on this one. Let's try and fill this table up. कि right at the beginning into the container, he added some random moles. थोड़ा सा ये डाल दिया, थोड़ा सा ये डाल दिया. He did not add any I2. And after several days, when he opened the container and the reaction was at equilibrium, so he figured out that there is 0.3 moles of I2 present. So what that means is कि शुरू में तो आपने add ही नहीं किया था, and now you've got 0.3 moles. So that means there's an extra 0.3 moles that got produced. Well, they got produced during the reaction, right? There must have been a reaction, and in that reaction, 0.3 moles got produced. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
So, क्योंकि initially you didn't add anything, and equilibrium के ऊपर जब container खोला तो all of a sudden you have 0.3. So that means 0.3 must have been produced during the reaction. Yani there must have been some backward reaction, and 0.3 moles of extra I2 must have been produced. तो एक ये produce होगा तो ये भी साथ उतना ही produce होगा ना. It's 1:1, right? So if an extra 0.3 are getting produced, then an extra 0.3 of H2 must be produced as well. क्योंकि वो isolation में तो produce होगा नहीं. It's going to be 1:1. So this 0.3 would also be produced. तो इसके कितने होंगे equilibrium moles? 0.2 तो पहले ही आपने डाले हुए थे. 0.3 extra moles got produced. So you now have a total of 0.5 moles at equilibrium. Is this clear? ये clear है?
So 0.5 होगा?
हाँ.
0.01.
नहीं देखो, initially 0.2 moles आपने container में वैसे ही add कर देते थे. 0 moles इसके and 0.8 moles. ठीक है, you put them in the container, right? Equilibrium पे आपको सिर्फ इसके moles पता थे कि equilibrium पे you found out कि भाई I2 के 0.3 moles हैं, यानी 0.3 ज्यादा हो गया ना. तो somewhere during the reaction 0.3 moles got produced.
Okay.
Extra
Okay,
produce
sir,
हुए
sir.
थे. तो
जी सर, इसीलिए ऐड करें.
हाँ, तो अब अगर इसके एक्स्ट्रा प्रोड्यूस हुए हैं तो उसके भी एक्स्ट्रा प्रोड्यूस 1:1 है ना. सो if one of this is produced, one of H2 would also be produced. If 0.3 extra are getting produced, 0.3 extra H2 would be produced as well. तो जब वो एक्स्ट्रा प्रोड्यूस हो रहे हैं तो वो ऐड होंगे कि पहले you added 0.2 moles and now 0.3 extra got produced. So in total you have 0.5 moles at equilibrium. अच्छा, now to produce 0.3, how much HI must have reacted? Well, what's the ratio? 0.6, right? वो it must have reacted, right? तो इसका मतलब वो कम हो गए होंगे. 0.8, you had 0.8 initially, now 0.6 are gone, they've reacted. So you're left with how many moles? 0.2 moles. Is this clear? ये clear है कि नहीं है? Alicia, is
जो
this?
हमारे
हाँ.
yes, sir.
क्या
तो
चीज?
जो हमारे जिनके रिएक्टेंट साइड पे होते हैं वो प्रोड्यूस हुए थे, और जो मतलब प्रोडक्ट साइड पे वो रिएक्ट हुए थे.
हाँ, वो खुद फिगर आउट कर रहे हैं. वो किसना पता लगा था कि प्रोड्यूस हुए थे? क्योंकि शुरू में
जब वो बढ़ गए.
0 मोल्स थे ना, और फिर एकदम से 0.3 ज्यादा हो गए. तो इसका मतलब there must have been more backward reaction जब वो backward और forward शुरू हुआ है ना. तो equilibrium थोड़ा सा
जी.
backward shift हुआ होगा. तो 0.3 extra got produced. तो it automatically means कि यहाँ पे फिर react हुए होंगे ना, क्योंकि if this side is getting produced. अच्छा, so let's do another table. And this time I've got N2 plus 3H2. And it's in equilibrium with 2 NH3s. अच्छा, एक और टेबल बना लेते हैं. अच्छा, remember the ratios are kind of more difficult now.
Sir, I have a confusion from the last one. Sir, हमने 0.3 of I2 and H2 हमने produce लिए हैं. So why HI के हमने 0.6 reacted लिए हैं?
अच्छा पहले तो
मतलब
ये क्लियर है कि हमने 0 मोल शुरू में डाले थे और उसने क्वेश्चन में ना सिर्फ ये दिया हुआ था कि इसको मैं अंडरलाइन कर लूं कि जो उसे क्वेश्चन में चीजें दी हुई थी उनको अंडरलाइन कर लूं कि उसने बताया हुआ था कि दीज आर द मोल्स दैट यू एडेड इनटू द कंटेनर एंड दिस इज द मोल्स दैट यू फाइंड एट इक्विलिब्रियम, ठीक है। तो पहला तो है कि कंटेनर में आपने 0 मोल्स डाले थे, डाले ही नहीं था I2, ठीक है। इक्विलिब्रियम पे जब कंटेनर खोले ना आफ्टर सेवरल डेज तो 0.3 पड़े हुए हैं, तो उसका क्या मतलब है 0.3 प्रोड्यूस हो गया ना, ये क्लियर है?
yes sir. Sir, this is clear.
हाँ, तो अब मुझे बताओ कि अगर इसके 0.3 बने होंगे तो इसका मतलब देयर मस्ट हैव बीन सम बैकवर्ड रिएक्शन ना, क्योंकि फॉरवर्ड में तो कम होते हैं, यानी इसके मोल ज्यादा हो रहे हैं, 0 थे अब 0.3 हो गए, तो इसका मतलब है कि थोड़ा सा बैकवर्ड रिएक्शन हुआ होगा ना। तो इसका अगर 0.3 बनेगा तो इसका भी 0.3 बनेगा ना, क्योंकि ये दोनों बराबर क्वांटिटी में बनेंगे ना 1:1 में। ये भी क्लियर है?
Yes sir.
तो उसके भी फिर 0.3 एक्स्ट्रा बनेंगे, तो उसके भी 0.3 एक्स्ट्रा बन गए, इसलिए उसके 0.5 हो गए। अब इक्वेशन ये कह रही है कि एक बनाने के लिए ना इधर से कितने रिएक्ट करते हैं, 2, 1:2 है ना, तो अगर 0.3 बनाने हैं तो वहां पे रिएक्ट कितने होंगे, 0.6। तो इसका मतलब है वहां पे 0.6, मतलब इस साइड पे अगर बनेगा रिएक्शन इस साइड पे जाएगा तो ये चीजें प्रोड्यूस होंगी और ये चीज खत्म होगी, मतलब ये कंज्यूम होगी। तो अगर इसके 0.3 बनाने हैं तो इधर 0.6 अकॉर्डिंग टू द रेशियो मस्ट रिएक्ट। तो अगर 0.8 में से 0.6 रिएक्ट कर गए तो यू आर लेफ्ट विद 0.2 मोल्स। इज दिस क्लियर?
Yes sir.
चलो अगला वाला फिर से रिमेंबर, इसकी थोड़ी सी प्रैक्टिस करनी है, you'll get good with this। तो here's another one कि you've got initial। अच्छा ये टेबल आपको कोई बना के नहीं देगा, you have to make this table on your own। अच्छा initial, and you get, I mean you don't have to make the boxes etc, but you should be able to do the working similar to this, ठीक है। So you've got initial moles and you've got your, मतलब फाइनल तो नहीं कहते, equilibrium moles। अच्छा now this one is कि I added 0.5 moles of let's say N2 and I mixed it with 0.9 moles of H2, and initially there was no ammonia, so the container had initially no ammonia। तो मैंने एक कंटेनर खोला, उसके अंदर added 0.5 moles of N2 and 0.9 moles of H2 और उसको बंद कर दिया, and I've kept it under certain conditions for several days। After several days, when I open the container, I find out that I've got 0.4 moles of N2। तो बाकियों के कितने मोल्स होंगे at equilibrium? So we'll start our working. First thing, what does this mean? कि 0.5 moles, I added 0.5 moles और equilibrium तक, once equilibrium got reached, moles कम हो गए, so that means 0.1 moles must have reacted। Is this clear? So that means there must have been some forward reaction. 0.1 moles are missing, so 0.1 moles must have reacted। कम हो गया ना, तो इसका मतलब the reaction went forward। Is this clear?
Yes sir.
अच्छा, so 0.1 moles reacted। So अब रेशियो लगाओ कि अगर अब ये पता लग गया कि 0.5 से कम हो गए, 0.4 हो गए, तो बीच में से 0.1 गायब हो गए। So that means 0.1 must have taken part in the reaction। So if 0.1 reacted, so according to the ratio, 0.3 of H2 must have reacted, क्योंकि 1:3 है। So 0.3 moles of this must have reacted। तो अगर इसके 0.3 moles रिएक्ट कर गए हैं So you added 0.9 and now 0.3 are gone. So that means you're left with how much? You're left with 0.6 moles. Clear?
Yes, sir.
अच्छा फिर उन्होंने रिएक्ट करके बनाया क्या है? उन्होंने they produced NH3. So it's 1:2. If 1 N2 reacts, 2 NH3s are produced. So if 0.1 moles are reacting, that means इस side पे 0.2 moles are getting produced. तो यहाँ पे extra 0.2 आ गए. 0.2 they got produced. So your equilibrium moles would be कि पहले तो थे ही नहीं, 0 था. I mean, you didn't add anything. 0.2 produce हो गए. तो equilibrium पे you'll have 0.2 moles. So you found your equilibrium moles. इसके भी पता लग गए, इसके भी पता लग गए, और इसके भी पता लग गए. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
So एक और करो कि as a same equation, I'll just fill up the table differently. कि so I'll give you.
So इस टेबल पे क्वेश्चन आते कैसे हैं, मतलब
इसी तरह
इससे
से
मतलब उनने तो हमें वो दिया होगा ना, मतलब क्वेश्चन जगह हमने टेबल खुद ड्रा करना है.
हाँ टेबल खुद ड्रॉ करना है, वो बेसिकली तो एंड में केसी की वैल्यू मांगेगा.
ठीक है सर.
ठीक है, वो तो भी हमने कैलकुलेट ही नहीं की, क्योंकि फॉर केसी you need to find the equilibrium moles first. Once you find the equilibrium moles, then you put them in the KC expression. ठीक है, तो ये बीच में ना करना पड़ता है. ठीक है, तो we're doing the next one, which is let's say इसके 0.8 1.2 moles, and this is 0.6 moles. So now at equilibrium, I have 0.3 moles of this. अब figure out करना है कि what are the moles of the other substances. तो कोई मुझे
0.3 of NH3 reacted.
ठीक है, तो इसका मतलब है डाले ज्यादा थे लेकिन अब इक्विलिब्रियम के ऊपर कम हो गए. तो दैट मींस रिएक्शन जो है ना वो पीछे चला गया थोड़ा सा. किट्स so 0.3 they took part in the reaction, they've reacted, they're gone. बाकियों के बताओ फिर वो दूसरी साइड पे जाके कितने प्रोड्यूस हुए होंगे. 0.3 have reacted. So how much H2 and how much N2 would be produced if 0.3 reacted?
So 0.15 N2 होगा.
ठीक है, so N2 would be according to the ratio 2:1. This would be 0.15 getting produced. And what about this one? 2:3. So how much are you getting?
So, are you available after this class to do past papers?
Yes.
Okay.
And
Is it going to be straight after this class, or is it going to be a little after?
And you can do right after this class. ठीक है.
Okay, thank you.
चलो. अच्छा इसका कोई बता दे कि what about H2?
0.45.
ठीक है, so 0.45 got produced. So that means an extra 0.45 got produced. So your equivalent moles would be कि इसके 0.8 से 0.15 extra produce हो गया. So I think that would be what, 1.05? क्या हो गया? 1.05, right? And the moles for this would be 1.2, and this would be now 1.65 moles, I think. If the math is correct. So I found my equilibrium moles. So now the next thing is कि once you
1.75 आ रहा है 0.75 sorry.
किसका
So ये जो 0.2 minus 0.45
कहाँ पे माइनस केस ये वाला
इस वाला अच्छा सॉरी वो ऐड किया था हमने
हाँ क्यों प्रोड्यूस वो एक्स्ट्रा प्रोड्यूस हो गया ना सो तो ज्यादा हो गया ठीक है
यस
मतलब रिएक्ट हो गए तो माइनस हो जाएंगे बिकॉज रिएक्टेड आर गॉन सो वो माइनस हो जाएंगे प्रोड्यूस हो गए तो वो ऐड हो गए ठीक है अच्छा anyway so what we need to do now is we I mean this was the question we had to find the value of Kc so the expression for Kc so I'll just do that at the end okay for the first one at least so we'll just jump towards past paper questions in the next class especially focusing on these questions now the first one is कि भाई इसका करना Kc की values the expression for Kc is what's the expression for Kc it's HI concentration squared and we got to divide that by the concentration of H2 and the concentration of I2. Now, the first thing is, it's Kc deals with concentration. This is not concentration. How do you find concentration? Remember, concentration is moles over volume. The formula for concentration is moles divided by volume, which should be in dm cube. So you have the moles and you also have the volume. In the question, they gave us the volume, which was 2 dm cube. So एक काम ये करना है कि once you find the moles, turn it into concentration, divide by 2 dm cube. ठीक है, divide everything by 2 dm cube so that you get mole per dm cube and then put the concentrations in this expression. That's what you're going to do. So the Kc expression would be what are you getting? It's HI squared, so it's 0.3 divided by 2, so that's 0.15 squared mole per dm cube squared, and you got to divide that by what? It would be divided by सारी 0.3 है अच्छा ठीक है so it's 0.15 into 0.15 and this actually comes out to be equal to 1 okay so remember this okay, once you're done with the table you have to turn the moles into concentration and concentration is moles over it's always moles over volume make sure you use I mean people forget this and very often they make this mistake that they forget to turn the moles into concentration is this clear you clear
यस सर अच्छा वो में वो वॉल्यूम तो दिया होगा ना क्वेश्चन
हाँ अच्छा specifically in this question you can do this question without the volume as well and the answer would come out to be exactly the same
यस
why
सर बिकॉज़ 2
नहीं क्योंकि ना वो 2 dm cube sorry 2 dm cube जो है ना that would get cancelled out sometimes वो इस केस में करते हैं मैं बता देता हूँ एक सेकेंड Kc has no units right अच्छा remember when Kc has specifically when Kc has no units ये मैं एक छोटा सा पॉइंट लिख लेता हूँ कि specifically when Kc has no units तो वो जो divide by volume वाला part है ना that will get cancelled out मतलब moles divided by volume moles divided by volume moles divided by volume अगर numerator और denominator terms बराबर हैं you've got two terms above and two terms below the divide by volume part would automatically get cancelled out तो वो करने की जरूरत नहीं है इधर कैंसिल आउट नहीं होगा क्योंकि ऊपर the square नीचे जो है वो concentration into concentration cubed है so it's not going to get cancelled out over here so specifically when Kc has no units then you're allowed you can use moles instead of concentration in the expression only then क्योंकि वो divided by volume वाला part जो है ना वो वैसे ही cancel out हो जाएगा is this clear
यस सर
ठीक है तो for example over here divided by 2 तो वो जब ऊपर डालोगे नीचे डालोगे डिवाइड बाय 2 तो ऑल ऑफ दैट वुड गेट कैंसल आउट। तो इस 2 का कोई फायदा नहीं है डिवाइड बाय 2 करने का, क्योंकि इट्स गोइंग टू गेट कैंसल आउट। बट इट ओनली वर्क्स अगर ऊपर भी 2 टर्म्स है और नीचे भी 2 टर्म्स है, देन इट्स गोइंग टू गेट कैंसल आउट। ठीक है, चलिए ठीक है, विल डू पास पेपर क्वेश्चंस इन द नेक्स्ट क्लास related to this topic. इसकी मैं वीडियो शेयर कर दूंगा, ठीक है, just to make sure you go through this. This is important. We'll do past paper questions related to these questions. ठीक है,
सर आप एक स्लाइड थोड़ी सी ऊपर कर देंगे, नीचे ऊपर, और नीचे वाला देखना है।
ये आप बोर्ड का लिंक ले लो। ये मैंने लिंक भेज दिया। ठीक है, चलिए ठीक है एवरीवन, लेट्स कंटिन्यू नेक्स्ट टाइम। हानी, आर यू देयर?